The wait is finally over. College football is back. And in just 3 days, we will be kicking off the season in Ireland as number 10, Florida State, takes on Georgia Tech in what is a very big and very intriguing ACC matchup. Both teams coming into the season with high expectations after a very successful 2023 season, and the outcome of this game could end up surprising you. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. Our first game prediction of the year. We predicted all of the games prior to the season starting. The first in-season prediction of the year, Florida State and Georgia Tech. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our expert picks over on thegridironexpert.com. If you want our pick against the spread for this game and every other game this season, the expert picks are for you. Go sign up for those today. Some of the best picks in the country, one of the lowest prices in the country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. So we guarantee you will win big with us over on thegridironexpert.com. Go sign up for those picks today and become a member of our GE Nation. So I love this matchup, guys. I love that we've got a week 0 matchup that actually means something. Sometimes these games are, elite teams facing cupcake teams, games that don't matter too much. This one matters. This is a big-time matchup in Ireland. A conference game, a top 10 team in action, a Florida State team ready to avenge themselves after missing out on the college football playoff last year. Some would say wrongly, going 13-0, winning the ACC, but falling short due to the injuries that they suffered, so especially that injury to Jordan Travis. Georgia Tech, on the other hand, they've got very high expectations this year. Brent Key doing a phenomenal job with this program, went 7-6, leading the Yellow Jackets to their first bowl game since 2018. They returned tons and tons of talent, and they're looking to shock the nation, and maybe the nation of Ireland as well, by pulling off a top 10 win in just the first game of the year. We'll break these two teams down on offense and defense. We'll start with the Seminoles. Start with Florida State, and if I could describe Florida State's offense in one word, it would be rebuilt. That's what Mike Norvell is having to do on the offensive side of the ball, is rebuild the offense. We know Florida State loses Jordan Travis. Got injured at the end of last year with his final year of eligibility. He is now gone. They lose their running back, Trey Benson. They lose their top 3 pass catchers. So a lot of the big-time offensive playmakers that contributed to Florida State's successful season are now gone. And Norvell had to find a way to replace that and hope to duplicate or get close to it the offensive stats they had last year. They bring in DJ Uiagalelei, the transfer quarterback from Oregon State, but also the former quarterback at Clemson, has thrown for over 8,200 yards and 57 touchdowns in his collegiate career. So that's I think a pretty big pickup. I think DJ Uiagalelei gets a lot of hate. Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the country? No, by no means. But he is a veteran QB. I think in the right system, he will do well. I think Mike Norvell's system is the right system. I think he will do very well down in Tallahassee. I think he's getting a lot of unwarranted hate. Did a very good job with Oregon State last year, showed flashes of brilliance at Clemson. I think he'll do just fine. No Jordan Travis, but will do just fine. Got a lot of experience as well. Roydell Williams transfers in at running back from Alabama. That is huge. A big-time pickup to replace Trey Benson. And while I do lose a lot of top pass catchers, their tight end Kyle Morlock does return. Ja'Kai Douglas returns at wide receiver. They also added Malik Benson from Alabama and Jalen Brown from LSU. A rebuilt receiving core, 190 starts on the offensive line for one of the best lines in this conference, maybe in the nation. The biggest question for them is how quickly can DJ Uiagalelei gel with the new pass catchers. That will be the storyline I'm watching out for on Saturday in Ireland. Georgia Tech, man, they are good. I would say right now the Yellow Jackets own the offensive advantage, strictly from a speed standpoint and from an experience standpoint. They've got a lot of starters coming back from a unit that averaged over 30 points per game and over 425 yards per game last year. 8 starters in all, including their quarterback Haynes King, who threw for over 2,800 yards and 27 touchdowns, but also rushed for over 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. His dual threat ability could be a problem for Florida State. That's going to be an X factor for me, is how well Florida State's defense can contain Haynes King and prevent him from extending the plays and picking up some first downs with his legs. But outside of him, you've got Jamal Haynes, a 1,000-yard rusher last year at running back. 3 of their top 4 pass catchers returned for the Yellow Jackets, including Eric Singleton and Malik Rutherford. They've got an elite offensive line with 2 All-ACC selections in Weston Franklin and Jordan Williams. They only gave up 15 sacks last year. they're going to be just fine once again up front, giving Haynes King tons of protection, opening up running lanes for Jamal Haynes. The biggest question mark for Georgia Tech in this game is, can they cut down on the turnovers? Haynes King, despite throwing 27 touchdowns, also threw 16 interceptions last year. They lost the turnover battle in 4 of their 6 losses they had last season. To beat Florida State, to beat a top 10 team, you have got to be on your A game and committing a lot of turnovers. Even 2 turnovers could be costly for Georgia Tech. So that's the storyline I'm watching out for. Has Haynes King done better? Has he improved with his ball security? The defense for Florida State, it's one of the best in the country. Some would say it's the best in the ACC. So that's an interesting battle here too. Georgia Tech's offense, their very flat, fast, and explosive offense against this Florida State defense. Yes, they do lose a handful of starters from last year. They lose their top 2 tacklers, but DJ Lundy returns as the anchor at the linebacking core, and they've got a pretty strong defensive line. I would say one of the best defensive lines in the country. And Mike Norvell was a phenomenal job last year across the board, but what was interesting to me, no player on Florida State's defense played more than 50% of the snaps on the defensive line. So no defensive lineman played more than 50% of the snaps all year last year. What does that mean? That means Norvell had a very deep rotation. A lot of guys were getting playing time. A lot of guys were getting in there, getting some meaningful reps. That's big when you lose a handful of people. Those guys, that next man up mentality, they ended up playing quite a bit last year. So they're not completely dry on that defensive line. You've got Patrick Payton, who had 7 sacks last year. You've got Joshua Farmer, who had 5 sacks last year. This Florida State defensive line and that linebacking core are going to be very, very dangerous. And I think they're going to improve drastically against the run because of that. Because of the rebuilt defensive line, because of the depth that they have, they gave up 152 rushing yards per game. Not good facing a Georgia Tech team that averaged over 200 rushing yards per game. I think they improve on those numbers drastically, and I think you see that improvement right now in week 0. The secondary, Fentrell Cypress, Shaheem Brown, and UCF transfer Devontae Brown, who had 31 starts with the Knights, all are coming in. This is a dangerous Florida State defense from top to bottom. The biggest thing, once again, is stopping the run. Georgia Tech wants to run the ball. They can run the ball. Florida State allowed at least 120 rushing yards in 10 of their 14 games last year. They've got to find a way to slow it down and force Georgia Tech to win the game through the air. Georgia Tech, their defense, that is the kicker, right? It is a section of the team that needs the most work. 29.5 points per game. That's what they gave up last year. 437 yards per game is what they were giving up last year. And that includes over 220 rushing yards per game allowed. The defensive line and the rushing defense as a whole, not very good. They only had 21 sacks on the year. They could not stop the run. They've got to figure out how to do it this year. Well, they've got a new defensive coordinator, Tyler Santucci, coming in to revamp this Georgia Tech defense. Brent Key went out and added 9 transfers overall to this defense. So I do expect the defensive line to be a bit better. I do expect the defense as a whole to be a little bit better. Kyle Efford returns at linebacker. The anchor of this defense was a leading tackler for the Yellow Jackets last year. Clayton Powell-Lee and LaMiles Brooks are going to lead the secondary, a secondary that really wasn't all that bad in 2023. Should be a little bit better now in 2024. They're going to be pretty solid this year, but they've got to find a way, again, to be a little bit more physical up front, to create a little bit more pressure. And if they can do that, maybe force DJ Uyunglele into a handful of mistakes. They gave up 5.6 yards per carry last year. The Yellow Jackets did. 5.6 yards per carry. They cannot do that. If they want to beat Florida State, they're going to have to get a lot of negative plays and have to bottle them up to force DJ Uyunglele to win the game through the air with the new pass catchers. That's how Georgia Tech can win on Saturday. So overall, guys, what is going to happen in Ireland? This is a fun matchup. Again, we mentioned it. 2 teams, high expectations. 2 teams that want to do well this year are expected to do relatively well this year. One interesting note I want to throw out there is that Brent Key, the head coach of Georgia Tech, is 4-0 against ranked ACC opponents as the head coach of the Yellow Jackets. He is 4-0 against ranked ACC opponents. In every single one of those games, the Yellow Jackets were at least 11.5-point underdogs. At least 11.5-point underdogs. A couple of those, they were over 20-point underdogs. So they are no stranger to being the underdog. They are no stranger to being big underdogs. They are no stranger to facing ranked teams and playing well against them. And I think that's exactly what happens on Saturday. Georgia Tech is going to play Florida State very, very close. This is not going to be some sort of blowout in Ireland, not like the Notre Dame-Navy game we saw last year. This will be a much closer game that goes well into the fourth quarter. But ultimately, I like Florida State in this game. Their defense is what is the difference maker for me. I believe their defense can slow down Georgia Tech. I believe they can force at least 1 or 2 turnovers off of Haynes King. They get favorable field position off of that. They will convert. DJ Uyunglele will get points out of it. It will be close. I think Georgia Tech puts up one heck of a fight, but it's the defense of the Seminoles that comes through clutch in the end and gets them a narrow victory in Ireland to kick off the year 1-0. Florida State wins a thriller in Ireland, and to me, no better way to start this college football season. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Go sign up for those today before the season starts. You'll get the spread pick for this game and the spread picks for the entire season over on thegridironexpert.com. Go sign up, become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.